Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's October, it's the 26th of October, it's 2016. It's Wednesday, and it's more basketball. We have 10 games here tonight. Interesting three-game slate for opening night, and now we get into the good stuff. We get 10 games here tonight. I'm excited for the slate, ready for a full slate, and having a good opening night, but don't even need to get into that. Welcome our guest today. How you doing, Noto?
I'm doing good. These three-game slates a little bit of more of an appetizer. I think tomorrow, or I guess tonight, when people are listening to this, it's going to be the main course, and I'm excited.
All right, so we got our fried pickles or portobello mushroom appetizer, and it's time to get into the steak, right?
Yeah, exactly. Steaks and potatoes, whatever else other side you want. It's going to be awesome.
All right, now you're talking my style. So before we get into it, if you guys haven't checked out our sponsor, rosters.com, make sure you head on over to rosters.com, check them out, use promo code grinders. They still have the promo going. If you deposit $10, it will put $40 into your account. Not going to find a better promo than that in the industry. So make sure you guys check that out. If you want to check out a new site, take advantage of that promo. They got a ton of basketball stuff up, and it's really interesting site for basketball, as I'm finding on the three-game slate. So make sure you guys check that out. Let's dive right into this basketball slate here for Wednesday night. We'll start with two teams in my home state, Miami at Orlando. We have a 200 total in this game. Orlando favored by 4. Injury news in this game. Ellington's out for Miami. Richardson's out for Miami. And Biyombo is suspended, I think, for the first two games, so he'll be out tonight as well. What's your thoughts on this game?
Interesting game for sure. I mean, we have the Heat, lost Dwayne Wade and Luol Deng, and I guess you can throw Chris Bosh in there as well. They're going to be a talented young team that's probably going to take a big step backwards. Probably going to go through some growing pains this season. We're going to have Goran Dragic take over as pretty much the main playmaker on offense. I think he's going to be great DFS play moving forward, but he's already priced up there right from the start.
Yeah, I agree with that. You mentioned losing Wade. Dwayne Wade had a true usage rate of 45% last season. That's a big number to kind of distribute here. Dragic was already up there. So my guy that I'm looking at to start the season off for the Heat is Whiteside. We've seen him dominate in the preseason, and we should see him dominate here just on opening night here against the bad front court of the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I agree. Having Bismack Biyombo out really helps him. Biyombo is one of the better low post defenders in the NBA, and Vucevic can't really guard anybody. We saw Whiteside average 1.23 fantasy points per minute last season, and that was with Dwayne Wade. So I think he's really going to take a step forward. But it's tough to pay that price for him.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm guessing we're gonna have some value that we're gonna like throughout the podcast. It's a 10-game slate. It's opening week, so pricing is still, I feel like, a little soft. So we'll see how it works out. Looking at the Magic side of things here, Elfrid Payton had a good usage rate last year. I just don't know if I could trust him, but I do like his price on FanDuel at 5,900.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorite players last year. I probably had more of him than anyone else in the industry. He's just one of those guys that stuffs the stat sheet on a regular basis. And yeah, his price under 6,000 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. I expect him to take a little bump up this year. The Heat were very good defensively last year, but they're expected to play at a much quicker tempo, which does help the Magic quite a bit here. But I think my favorite guy's got to be Aaron Gordon. He hasn't played great in the preseason, but he's had some ankle injuries. He's supposed to be ready to go for opening night, and only $5,600 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like that call for sure. A guy that I expect to take a step forward this year. I'm with you. What's your thoughts here on Evan Fournier? We know Victor Oladipo's gone now. Any interest in Fournier here?
Yeah, certainly some. His price is a little higher than I'd like it to be. But like you mentioned, no Oladipo. He's going to have a bigger role in this offense. And I think he's playable at shooting guard. Probably not my favorite, but I think you can use him in tournaments.
All right, let's move on. Dallas at Indy. We have a 206.5 total in this game. Indy's favored 5.5. The injury news here: Harris is out, and for Indy, Miles is questionable. That's one of the things that we definitely need to watch here. I think that questionable tag definitely is something that we need to pay attention to for Miles.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, it should open some things up. As far as the Mavericks go, they lost Chandler Parsons and Zaza Pachulia, and kind of had some lateral moves in the offseason, getting Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut. I'm not really sure what to expect from Harrison Barnes this season. Last time we saw him, he was airballing wide open shots in the finals. But I mean, he's awfully cheap on FanDuel at 4,800. You got to think he's going to be pretty much the go-to guy in this offense. I mean, Dirk's getting a little bit older. Darren's getting a little bit older. Wesley Matthews coming off a career low shooting percentage from the field last year. Any interest in Harrison Barnes?
A little. Like, I feel like he'd be a guy, like, he's your type of guy. He's a cash game guy, right? Like, he's a guy that has a pretty decent floor, and we know he's going to get minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I hated playing him last year when he was like the 8th option on the Warriors, but yeah, I mean, I'm at least interested. I don't love the matchup against the Pacers. He's probably going to see Paul George, which is just an awful matchup. He's probably more of an option moving forward, but I'm at least interested at the $4,800 price tag.
Yeah, he's cheap. Matthews is cheap. Williams, I wish he was cheaper. I'd have a little interest because, Harris out, Barea a little banged up. Like, Williams could see extended minutes here on opening night for these guys. But honestly, there's not a lot that I like for this Dallas team.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Seth Curry was a big pickup for them. Like you mentioned, this backcourt is just injured all the time. So I think he's going to see some big minutes this season. Probably not a great DFS play at the start, but someone to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I don't mind him for tournaments. Looking at the Indy side of things here, you mentioned Paul George against Barnes. I don't hate that. And I really am going to get exposure to Monte Ellis. His price really intriguing on FanDuel at 5,500.
Yeah, he's certainly cheap. I'm interested to see, how much of the ball he's going to have in his hands on offense. They brought in Jeff Teague. Last year, George Hill played off the ball a little bit more than Teague probably will. And we know they like to run the offense through Paul George. So that'll be certainly an interesting situation. Miles Turner is probably my guy in this spot. He's just really just one of those explosive young players. He can knock down shots. He can finish at the rim, and he's a great shot blocker. I think you can play him on opening night right off the bat.
All right. I like it. Let's move on. We have Brooklyn at Boston, 211.5 total in this game. The injury news here, and Boston's a huge favorite in this game, 13.5. Injury news for Brooklyn, not that it matters, but Foy is out. And then the Boston side, Marcus Smart's going to miss the opener here, and Kelly Olynyk is still out. What are we doing with the Brooklyn Nets in a game that should be lopsided?
Oh, man, how bad is this team going to be?
They're going to be pretty bad.
Jeez, Vegas has them projected to win 20.5 wins this season. Look at their starting lineup. I mean, they have Trevor Booker starting at the power forward. I mean, it's going to be – I like Booker. He's on the Jazz. He's a good role player, but he shouldn't be your starting power forward.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to get blown out in this one. I really want to play Jeremy Lin, assuming he was, $5,000 or cheaper, but it's hard to pay that much for him in what should be a blowout. There's not really anybody that I like here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Lin in a tournament, just in case the game does stay close, which I think me and you both agree that there's a good chance it doesn't stay close. But just if it stays close, I think Lin can make an interesting tournament play. On the other side of this game, I hate targeting teams that are huge favorites, but I think you have to like Isaiah Thomas for tournaments here.
Yeah, I always like Isaiah Thomas in tournaments. Yeah, I mean, he's just got a ton of upside. He could end up playing limited minutes here. The one thing about the Celtics that I don't love is that they're so balanced offensively, and they have a very deep rotation. We saw last year they were just tough to target. It was tough to peg who we wanted to play on a nightly basis. I think they're in a great spot as a whole, but I'm not really sure which of the individual parts that I want to use. Like you mentioned, I think Thomas can be played in tournaments, and then Amir Johnson only 3,700 on DraftKings. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I saw that price on DraftKings when I was doing my research. I'm glad you pointed it out. I think a guy that would be popular is Jay Crowder. He was a guy that was popular a lot last year. He kind of fills the stat sheet, pretty cheap. What's your thoughts on Crowder?
Yeah, I like him as a player, really good defender. He can play some four. He can knock down open threes. His price is pretty cheap, 5,500 on FanDuel, 5,400 on DraftKings. So, yeah, man, I don't mind the play. I'm just worried about the minutes for all these guys.
All right, let's move on. We have one of the better basketball games, but I don't know that there's a lot of fantasy goodness in this game. We have Detroit at Toronto, a 195 total in this game. Toronto's favored 7.5. Injury news in this game, Detroit, Jackson is out, and for Toronto, Sullinger's out. I didn't see any questionable tags, so Joseph was sick on Friday. I think he'll be fine on Wednesday night. So what's your thoughts here on Detroit?
I mean, they picked up Boban. They're the GOAT. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they got Ish Smith too, two of my favorite players on the same team, so that's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, but bad matchup right out of the gate. Going to Toronto is always tough. Looking at their defensive numbers last season, Toronto was ranked 3rd in points allowed per game and 5th in fantasy points allowed per game. And they should be just as good defensively this season. I don't love anyone here. Maybe Ish Smith on DraftKings. He's only 4,700.
Yeah, you have to think. Reggie Jackson had a true usage rate of 45%. So with him out, there's going to be, somebody that's going to step up here. And I like your call on Ish Smith. Not on FanDuel, 6,400. Yeah. Little pricey, but we get a value on DraftKings for Ish Smith. So I like him over there as well. I'm a sucker for Tobias Harris, but I don't know if this is the spot. And I'm the KCP whisperer, and I'm not playing him here tonight. So just so everybody knows.
That's good to know, because I always get him wrong. So anytime I'm considering him, I'll have to hit you up.
Yeah, like for some reason last year, I just had that guy pegged. Looking at the Toronto side of things, one of the safer options. I don't love his price, but I think Kyle Lowry is pretty safe here on the slate.
Yeah, I think he's safe. My problem is if I'm paying, above 8,000 for anybody, I want it to be Westbrook or Harden, who we're going to get to. So, I mean, I have a tough time using him, but yeah, I think he's a safe play for sure.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like, even DeRozan's a one-trick pony. I don't think I ever play him. I'm more of a tournament player, and I just don't like him. What's your thoughts here on the Patrick Patterson with Sullinger out?
I'm actually more interested in Pascal Siakam. I believe I'm saying that right. I had to Google it before the show.
You did it way better than I was going to.
Yeah, I mean, Patterson's a guy that, we saw last season. He'll play 40 minutes and get 15 fantasy points. And it's just the worst. I mean, no matter – oh, man, it was the worst. He'd either have 15 points and no rebounds or 5 points and 10 rebounds. It was just bad. So I'm more interested in Siakam. He's shown some nice shot blocking ability in the preseason.
And he should be min salary everywhere, right? I know he is on FanDuel.
Yeah, min on FanDuel, 36 on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's cheap enough to where I'm going to take some shots on him. Valanciunas, he's going to get a lot of minutes, I would think, in this game. Because even the backup center, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the guy's name, Nigeria, I don't even know. But yeah, Valanciunas should see a nice amount of minutes if this game stays close.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at some of the advanced stats, Drummond isn't that great of a defender. I mean, he's a good shot blocker, but he's really lazy on defense. So, Valanciunas is one of those guys that's going to out-hustle you 2 offensive rebounds. So I do like that call.
All right, let's move on. One of my favorite games of the night. We have Denver at New Orleans at 207. New Orleans favored -3 in this game. A little bit of questionable news on the Denver side. We have Gary Harris questionable, Darrell Arthur questionable. But on the New Orleans side, we know Evans is out, and we know Drew Holiday's out. And, I don't like getting into it too much, but I hate to see what Drew Holiday's going through with his wife. I wish him the best of luck in that situation. But what are we doing with this game in general here?
Yeah, I think it's a very sneaky game, and But yeah, Drew Holiday, man, that's just tough. I mean,
Couldn't imagine it, dude.
yeah, if you haven't heard, his wife had to get a tumor removed from her brain. So, best wishes to them. But yeah, really tough.
Yeah, it's just, man. All right, let's talk. We'll break down the Denver side of things here first. What do we like with this Denver team? Because there's a lot of options here in this game.
So I love their front court of Jokic and Nurkic. That's kind of an interesting name pairing, but yeah, I mean, last season Jokic averaged 1.1 fantasy points per minute, and Nurkic averaged 1.14 fantasy points per minute. It sounds like Nurkic lost 40 pounds in the offseason, and he's no longer on a minutes restriction, which is good to see. And then Jokic just needs to stay out of foul trouble. That was the problem with him last year. He would just get in there and just foul immediately, which I've never understood. Do you understand why people have such trouble with fouls?
I just don't get it. Like, I'm with you, man. I don't get it. It makes zero sense to me.
Like, you pick up the first, that's fine. And then 10 seconds later, you get another foul. I'll never understand. But
Mason Plumlee in tonight's game, he had like 2 fouls in the first like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's fluky, but these guys that are just consistently in foul trouble is just the worst. Nice play if Gary Harris is out. He's pretty cheap. And then Emmanuel Mudiay, kind of like him to take a step forward this year. He needs to develop a little bit better of a shot, but good matchup against Pelicans.
Yeah, really good tournament play, Mudiay. Looking at the New Orleans side, what's your thoughts on Tim Frazier?
I love the guy. He's kind of in that Ish Smith kind of role that you didn't really see him coming, and then he just dominated. One of the better DFS values last year. So with Drew Holiday and Tyreek Evans out, I think you can play him. 5,000 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings. Both very reasonable prices. And what are we going to do with Anthony Davis? Just fade him all year?
Good question. I'll say that. Just good question. Like how long before the tweets happen tomorrow night? He stubbed his toe or something. Yeah, I feel like I don't know if I can play him in cash games at all this year, just because of what he does.
Yeah.
But I feel like you need to have exposure to him in tournaments, right? Like his upside is just too high not to play him.
Yeah, his upside's incredible, and I'm just a sucker for him. And I think I got burned by him so many times that I was just scared to miss out on that big game, and so I just kept playing him. And yeah, I mean, I had a good season last year, but if you would have just taken out the Anthony Davis slates, it would have been a truly great season, I think.
For sure. New Orleans, Ryan Anderson's gone here. Terrence Jones kind of moves into that role. Any interest there for a tournament? I know not cash games.
If the slate was a little smaller, I'd be interested. I think there's some better values out there.
Yeah, I think that I tend to agree. I just wanted you to be on the same page with me there, and it made me feel a lot better that no interest. So, all right,
Solomon Hill.
Oh God, if it wasn't a 10-game slate like you were just saying, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if I'm going to play the value guy, I think Frazier would be the value guy from this game for me.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't get why the Pacers let Hill go. They declined his rookie option. I don't really understand that. But anyway.
They didn't want to pay him. Well, I guess anybody could pay anybody in this offseason.
It was cheap. Yeah, anyway.
Anybody can pay anybody. All right, let's move on. We have Charlotte at Milwaukee. These two teams play at a slower pace. We have a 192.5 total. Charlotte's -2. Zeller's questionable on the Charlotte side, and as we know, Chris Middleton for Milwaukee is out. Let's talk about the Charlotte side first. Anything pique your interest in this game?
Not really. I mean, they didn't make a very big splash in the offseason. They got rid of Al Jefferson, picked up Roy Hibbert, so nothing too exciting there. Yeah, I mean, targeting players against the Bucks wasn't really great last season. I don't really expect it to be this season. They got a lot of long, athletic defenders, and yeah, I mean, look at their team total. They have the second lowest on the board at only 95.8 points. I think you could maybe look at Batum, but yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I'm with you. I just don't see a lot here for Charlotte. Slower paced game, just a close game that should be pretty low scoring. One of the lowest totals, if not the lowest. Yeah, it is the lowest total on the slate.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be ugly. What about on the Bucks? You like Giannis?
You have to, right? Like, just the guy touches the ball so much, and you just have to think that the offense is going to run through him this year, right?
Yeah, I think moving forward, I expect his price maybe to go up a little bit, but I was really hoping he would be a little cheaper. I was waiting for the prices to come out today because I do want to play him in this matchup. He should be playing point guard while he's on the floor, which just makes his upside tremendously high. But yeah, I mean, 9,400 is tough. Like I mentioned, I really want Westbrook, really want Harden, and if you're taking both of those guys or even one of those guys, it's going to be hard to fit Giannis in there.
The thing that I do want to note, though, like on FanDuel, like you don't have the multi-position eligibility like you have on Fan or on DraftKings, and you're getting a shooting guard that's technically really a point guard. So I do like that, but like you're saying, like if you're paying that much, you almost have to go up to Harden or Westbrook is just. We're going to talk about it here in a minute for sure.
Yeah, and then the other guy that I'm at least a little interested in is Teletovic. If he draws a start as small forward, 4,000 on FanDuel, it's pretty cheap, and 4,300 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't mind that. What's your thoughts on Parker? He's a guy that just never could get right. I just feel like he's so athletic and he has a ton of upside. It's just he disappears in games sometimes, and it drives me insane.
Yeah, I loved him last season when the Bucks really shortened their rotation. He was playing 40 minutes a night, but I don't think we can expect that to start this season.
All right, let's move on. Yes, this game makes me chuckle. Sorry. Oklahoma City at Philadelphia. We have a 208.5 total in this game. Oklahoma City's favorite, 8.5. We have two of the faster paced teams in the NBA from last season. Noel is out in this game. Covington's questionable. No injury news on the Oklahoma City side. Westbrook, yeah, just if you can afford him, play him, right?
Yeah, the number one rule in daily fantasy last year was to play Westbrook when Durant was out, and now we get a whole season of that. So I don't see how you don't play him in this game. Just do it. He might be 50% owned or whatever, but hey, that's 50% of people that are going to lose, so that's fine.
Like if you can fit him, it's just I know
you can get him in there. You can get him in there.
No, I know, and we talk about 5x yada yada yada. Like he's still a guy that's going to probably put up 60 to 70 point on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I mean, with most superstars, you generally expect less than, your whatever your multiplier is. You expect more out of your cheaper guys. But I think with Westbrook, he can hit 5 or 6x. That's how good he is. That's how involved he is going to be in this offense. And the matchup, he's going up against Sergio Rodriguez.
Why I was laughing. Like this game just makes me chuckle so much. What's your thoughts on Victor Oladipo? If you're playing in a tournament, maybe you're off of Westbrook in a tournament, do you pivot to Oladipo? Do you have to have exposure to one of these guys?
Yeah, I think so. His price is a little higher than I wanted it to be, over 7,000 on FanDuel and DraftKings. But I think he's definitely in play. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in with Westbrook this year. Kevin Durant, he was a little bit better at playing off the ball than Oladipo. Oladipo's at his best when he's got the ball in his hands. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think they're going to play well together. The guy I'm looking at here is Steven Adams at 4,700 on FanDuel. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and I expect him to be a bit more involved offensively this year.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't know how much exposure I'm going to have there, but I feel like he's a pretty solid floor play there. Oh, Philly. Like, somebody's going to score points for Philly, and if you can figure that out, you're probably going to have a good night.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to come from. What a weird team. I mean, 3 of their best players are all centers. It's kind of weird. Joel Embiid. Yeah, I mean, Joel Embiid's going to be a monster, but he's on a 20-minute restriction for opening night. They're going to be without Jared Bayless. So it looks like Sergio Rodriguez is going to get the start. He's only 3,200 on DraftKings. I think Robert Covington is probably the best bet for a decent game, but I don't know if I want to play him.
Oh, man.
Is that a ringing endorsement for the Sixers?
I just don't even know, man. Um, like a little interesting Grant on FanDuel at 5,200 at a small forward position that I hate paying up for. Little interest there.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Oh, this game. All right. This game.
But hey, there's only 8.5 point spread. So as long as it stays like within 15, Westbrook's just gonna score 100.
Yeah. I saw somebody tweet it. I think it was Dan, DB. He said, bold prediction, Westbrook is going to average a triple-double this year. And I don't know if that's technically a bold prediction or not. We'll have to see how it plays out. Moving on.
What do you think he has to do to get the MVP? Because they're obviously not going to have anywhere near the best record.
I don't know, man. After watching the Spurs beat up on Golden State on opening night, like the game is still going as we're recording, but they're up by a bunch here. But I don't know if Westbrook makes the playoffs and averages a triple double. How doesn't he win MVP?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be awesome to see. And yeah, I mean, they're projected for 43.5 wins, which would put them, 6 to 8 seed somewhere in that range.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting for sure. Minnesota at Memphis, 199, -2 here for Memphis. We know that Parsons is out for opening night. We're paying attention to the Tony Allen news, if it matters at all. But let's talk about this Minnesota team. I feel like this is going to be one of the stronger, younger teams in the NBA this year.
Yeah, going to be one of the funnest teams to watch on a nightly basis. Just Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a monster. Andrew Wiggins, I'm not really sure if he's ever going to break out and become that superstar that a lot of people expected him to be. But I think he's a really good NBA player. And then, the backcourt of Ricky Rubio, Zach LaVine, I like that a lot. Yeah, it sucks that they draw such a bad matchup right out of the gate.
You know, the guy that I really like and his price is down is Chris Dunn. He's going to be a guy that I play a lot in the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a guy to keep your eye on. Nobody's heard of him yet, so if you're going to play him, use him now.
Yeah, I drafted him in the RG season long last night, and somebody asked me who he was.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
So, yes, I have that going for me. Anybody else here from Memphis? I love Cat. I agree with you. Cat, just on a nightly basis, going to be one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah, I can't pay that price in cash games on opening night, but I do think you can still look at him in tournaments. Marc Gasol is one of the better defenders, but I think you can still look at him in tournaments. And then got to bring up Gorgeous Dong, just to say the name.
It's fine with me. Love the Gorgeous Dong for sure. Man, looking at the Memphis side of things here, is there anything that piques your interest here? Because when I was doing my research, I just didn't love anything here.
Yeah, so Chandler Parsons is out. Marc Gasol is on a minutes restriction. Zach Randolph's getting old. Tony Allen's questionable. I like JaMychal Green a little bit.
There you go. That's the one guy that I had written down too.
Yeah, 4,100 on DraftKings. He's had some big games last season and in the preseason. So I think you can look at him.
The one guy that I think that I'll have exposure to, if anybody here, it's just not a team that I'm going to be targeting a lot. If we do get the news before the lock that Allen doesn't play, what's your thoughts on James Ennis?
Yeah, he was a popular value play quite a bit last season. And, yeah, I don't mind him. 4,000 on FanDuel, 3,600 on DraftKings. Small forward's always a tough position to fill, or at least usually the toughest one. So I don't mind that play if Tony Allen's out.
All right, let's get into the goodness. Let's get into these two late games. These games are going to be high scoring. It's late West Coast games, and they're going to be a lot of fun. Sacramento at Phoenix. 212 total here. Phoenix favorite 2.5. Collison's out for Sacramento. He's suspended for the first 8 games of the season. Two of the fastest paced teams in the NBA last year, 1-4. A lot of fantasy goodness here.
Yeah, this should be a fun one. In the offseason, the Kings picked up Ty Lawson, Matt Barnes, and Aaron Aflalo. So they're going to be a lot better on the wing. But they're still only projected to win 34 games. They're just one of the worst run organizations in the NBA. I mean, they got to give DeMarcus Cousins somebody to work with, right? Or are they just going to trade him this year?
It wouldn't shock me. You would have to get a big haul from him, though, right? Like you'd have to get a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it'd be interesting if Boston was interested in Cousins. I think that could be really interesting. But they have a lot of draft picks and a couple young players too. So anyway, for this game, I think Ty Lawson is worth a look. I don't like him quite as much as Tim Frazier, maybe not as much as Ish Smith either. But at 5,100 on FanDuel, I think he's certainly playable. Are you going to have any Cousins shares?
Yes. Yes.
You have to in tournaments, I think.
Like what? Like realistically, with the starting team that we have for Sacramento here, like realistically, over under on his like true usage this season, like 45.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be close to that.
I think I set the number right on the money.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Aflalo is going to shoot a little bit more than McLemore did last year, and Ty Lawson. You never know what you're going to get from him, but yeah, I mean, I think Cousins is going to be a monster.
Can we look at a follow here? 3,900 on FanDuel. That's a pretty nice price tag. Like for a guy that at that price tag, we could only need like 20, 25 points from.
Yeah, you can definitely look at him. This is going to be one of the highest scoring games of the night. And if you're wanting to get some of those superstars into your lineup, you're going to have to find some value. And there's a lot of value at point guard, but not a lot at shooting guard. So I do like that call.
Looking at the Phoenix side of things here, we like targeting Devin Booker. Is he a guy you're looking at here?
Yeah, he's a little expensive for me, but I mean, targeting shooting guards against the Kings has been a thing for a few years. I think it might calm down a little bit this year with Aflalo. He's one, pretty good perimeter defender. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what to expect from this backcourt. They got Eric Bledsoe and Booker starting, and then Brandon Knight off the bench. That's a lot of shots, and only one ball to go around, I guess.
The one spot that I do like a lot for tournaments is Bledsoe against Ty Lawson. Old man Lawson trying to slow down Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe could have a field day here.
Yeah, I always love Bledsoe. He's another one of those guys that can just fill up all areas of the stat sheet. So I do like that call. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be able to play all three of those guys together at all.
I'm sure they will, right? Like, especially being in the West Coast. I don't know if they'll do it against Sacramento, but being in the West Coast, Western Conference, there's going to be times where they're going to be playing teams where they're going to be playing downsized, and I think we're going to see those three play a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And dude, Jared Dudley's their starting power forward. Just play Alex Len, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, if we knew Len was going to play a bunch of minutes, right? Like,
yeah.
Could be in foul trouble against Cousins early.
Yeah. I wish he was starting at power forward. He'd be really interesting because I'll probably have Chandler on Cousins, but that's probably not going to happen, so we don't have to worry about it.
All right. The best game of the day is the last game. It's Houston at LA. It's a 224 total. It's -6.5 for Houston. Beverly's out on the Houston side. Calderon is out on the LA side. LA played around the 18th fastest pace last year. We expect that to go up with no Kobe this year, right?
Yeah, definitely. They're one of the younger teams in the NBA, so I do expect them to pick up the pace. And on the Rockets side, I mean, they were one of the fastest paced and one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA last season. They got rid of Dwight Howard. They brought in two shooters in Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson. They hired Mike D'Antoni, who loves offense and hates defense. And yeah, I mean, they're going to be the Coors Field of the NBA this year, I think.
All right, Houston. James Harden, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And yes.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Beverly's out. Harden's going to be the point guard. I mean, he just went bananas in the preseason. You gotta play him against the Lakers.
Yes.
Exactly.
What's your thoughts on Ryan Anderson? I wish he was a little cheaper.
Oh man, I was so bummed when the prices came out because he's a guy that people don't like to pay or play really. I mean, he's pretty inconsistent just because he just scores. But yeah, I was hoping he'd be in the mid fives and I was just going to be all over him. But at this price, I think you can only use him in tournaments.
Ariza, I don't mind Trevor Ariza here. And what's your thoughts on saving a lot of cap and going to Capella starting center here?
I do like Capella quite a bit on FanDuel, 4,200. Expected to get the start, and Lakers probably going to be one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. Mozgov will help that a little bit, but yeah, I do like Capella.
All right, looking at the Lakers side of things, D'Angelo Russell looked really good in the preseason.
Yeah, I love Russell and Julius Randle. I think they're both going to break out this season. I don't expect too much from the second overall pick, Brandon Ingram. So it looks like the Lakers are going to bring him along kind of slow, which is going to be an interesting draft class because we have Ben Simmons, who's going to miss some time, and then Brandon Ingram probably not going to play a ton to start the year. So, yeah, I mean, the rookie of the year is going to be up for grabs.
Outside of Russell, Julius Randle or any of these other guys pique your interest at all?
Well, if you listen to me, I said Julius Randle already.
My
but
bad.
yeah, I mean,
my bad, dude.
yeah, I think he's one of the better values. I think in a week or two, he's going to be priced 7,000 or so. And same with D'Angelo Russell on FanDuel. I think he's underpriced. I think you can play both of these guys, and you can play them together.
All right, well, that's going to do it here for the game-by-game breakdown on this 10-game slate. I really like this slate. It's a much better slate than the 3-game slate, and the reason that I didn't hear you say Randall is I'm actually making a run in the $25 tournament, so I was looking to see what I really needed. But anyway, every day I give out 3 guys over on rosters.com that I feel like is underpriced. We look at the $10,000 mark and under. And I didn't ask you to pull 3 value guys, so I'm just going to give you my 3 value guys, and then you can say how much you like it or hate it.
All right.
All right, the first guy I got under 10K over on rosters.com that I just feel like he's way too cheap for the matchup, and that's D'Angelo Russell. We just got done talking about him. He's 9,900 in this matchup, and I just feel like 9,900 under 10K over there at rosters. He needs to be a guy you're looking at here.
Yep, his usage is going to go through the roof this season. And he's probably going to match up against James Harden, who's probably the worst defender ever.
You summed it up pretty well. Worst defender ever. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the next guy I got here, not a terrible price tag on this guy, but I really do like this matchup for Tim Frazier. He's 8,500, and we talked about it. Like, he's going to be the guy here with Drew Holiday out, and 8,500 for his minutes and usage. He's a guy that I'm definitely going to be looking at.
Yep, love him as well. One of my favorite values across the industry.
All right, this last one, I'm going back to the LA-Houston game. I don't know why I didn't write these guys down together, but Julius Randle, 9,700. Going back to what you were talking about when I wasn't listening to you. 9,700, under 10K. I want as much exposure to this Houston LA game as possible. I'm going to get it a lot here on rosters because these guys are just too cheap.
Yep, I agree. In the offseason, Draymond Green said that Julius Randle could end up being better than he is. Not that I trust anything that Draymond Green says, but yeah, I think the talent's there.
Come on. Get out of here with that. That's not – no. Come on, Julius Randle's not going to be as good as. All right, sorry, hey, Draymond. Sorry, Draymond. We like you a lot more than you like yourself, obviously. But any final thoughts before we get out of here, Notorious?
Nope. Just check out the grind down tomorrow. I'll be working on it all night, and yeah, or I guess check it out today since it'll be in the morning. Yeah. I got used to this podcasting at night.
I know, man. And you'll be joining me throughout the season on the Wednesday podcast. And those one of the money days for basketball. So I'm excited to do the pod with you every Wednesday. If you guys haven't checked out the grind down, I don't know why you haven't, but check that out. And yeah, so that's going to do it here for the Wednesday edition. We'll be back tomorrow with the Thursday edition, which will switch over back to NFL, and we'll break down each game for the NFL slate for this weekend. He's Notorious. I'm Stevie. Good luck in your contest tonight. We'll see you then.